great thing about creativity is that you don't even have to be a musician to do it. All you have to do is get intoxicated by the sound that you make. If music is just a source or your art, feel free to do something else. The only thing that's strong in your art is accepting and discovering everything that you're really about. You let your hand choose notes without thinking, without caring, and then you see what you have. You don't try to write something good, you just let something write and see what comes out.
I think if your basics are in place and your basics are together, then the creativity is much easier to come out. If we start being creative before we have basic knowledge of what we're trying to be creative about, you're never going to get a strong result. So the basics need to be in place.
You have to be able to disengage. So once you notice, my mind is going, then there is something else than your mind, right? It's not the mind. So you have to be able to step away and say, because then you have an observer that's observing the mind, which creates a little distance, which is already helpful.
You only need your brain to be working, and you need maybe your hands to be fairly free. Kenny has been a huge part of my musical development, and we've been playing together a very long time. I think we've changed each other. You know, the whole group has changed each other. So it's a big part of my musical identity is playing with this group.
Well, right now the thing with Ari and Johannes, we know each other so well. We've been together so long that we have our own way of speaking every song, original or standards. So I don't have that immediately with another band.
It tends to be overwhelming because there's different people, different teachers telling you different things. In my experience, there's a lot going on in the mind all the time. A lot of thoughts about what should I practice, how should I practice, should I play jazz, should I not play jazz, all these kind of things, and it's a lot of noise in the mind. And that noise tends to get in the way of listening.
I think that's the most important thing that you can do, is to train your ears so that you understand how the musicians are thinking about what they're playing. I think that's something that people like to think that they can get away with not doing, but it's always very apparent and obvious when they don't know how to do it. So I think it's the most important thing. I think it's more important than practicing your scales, and more important than practicing your single stroke rolls on the drums, and more important than everything else that you can do.
Well, I think they should learn to go into the space, even for a few minutes. The space is when you go beyond your conscious mind and you sit in the seat of your own true self. A few minutes of that a day, and you may become familiar with that person. Instead of thinking there's something I should play and something I shouldn't play, I like to feel like every note I play is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard.